Madam Commissioner, colleagues and guests, it's a great pleasure to be here this afternoon for our seminar, to be followed later this evening by a reception and our annual dinner. You will see that the seminar is a very broad title, so I think it really permits quite a broad exchange of views. Europe of values, who we are and what we stand for. Why are we discussing it and why now? Each year when we plan the seminar, we have quite an exchange of views on our committee as to what might be an appropriate theme. And our Secretary, Brigitte Langenhagen, was, I think, among the members of the committee most insisting that the time had come to treat this issue. We have next year a year of renewal of the European Union and its institutions, beginning with the European Parliament elections, followed then by the nomination and vote for a President of the European Commission, followed by the hearings for commissioners and a new Commission, and finishing, I guess, in November or December with the nomination and election of a new President of the European Council. We know, if we follow politics in different states, that this will be an especially challenging European election, and especially for what I call the classic conventional political parties of centre-left or centre-right, liberals and so on. If one looks at what might happen in Greece, and I don't want to go into all the things we know about Greece, but if one looks there, clearly it's going to be a very major test, and clearly if you look at the opinion polls, it does not bode well for those currently in power, and that is still an economy, a state, in a very fragile moment of transition. If we look at what's happening in the opinion polls in France, one sees the emergence in strength in the opinion polls of Madame Le Pen and a significant level of public opinion support indicated at this time. If one looks at the United Kingdom Independence Party looks in the European elections in some way to be setting a trend. And so the point is, irrespective of what happens in the election, and we may exchange views on that this afternoon, it is clear that when any given message becomes dominant in the media and popular, it sits like an anchor that draws the full spectrum of politics somewhere in its direction, even with differentiation, that everybody looks to cover the flank on which they are politically exposed. We've also seen, and it's a neighbouring state, the extraordinary events in the past 10 days in Ukraine. I expect that it would be very difficult today in any capital of the European Union to suppose you would find 1 million people in the streets of the capital city expressing their affinity with the idea of Europe. And here you have this extraordinary event in Kiev where people are in the street not looking for more pensions for themselves, not looking for changes to the welfare code, but looking to connect to an idea, to a set of values, to a transformative capacity. So that really is the context that brought us to consider why discuss that today. And I think, by way of just a little scene set to explain that, I have spoken long enough. It is my great pleasure now to invite Mrs. Viviane Reding to address us here this afternoon. Viviane Reding, I think, needs no introduction to former members because she is a colleague who has been a former member. She's been in the Commission now in different portfolios and is currently the Commissioner for Justice, Fundamental Rights and Citizenship And so on the values question, especially well placed, I think, to open our seminar. And Madam Commissioner, you have the floor.